But I have to tell you, the stuff that some young people are basically forced to read at an age that is completely inappropriate for them. And I don't mean it's inappropriate because it's sexual or anything else.
Yes,
No,
yes, yeah.
really, I mean, really, should a seventh grader be reading Macbeth? I don't think so. Honestly, I don't even think they should be reading Romeo and Juliet. This is what I can't tell you how many kids I've known over the years who are like, basically, I got dragged through those things as a middle schooler, forget high school, didn't like it, didn't get it, didn't understand it, hate Shakespeare.
This is Dr. Andrew Rimby. Thanks for joining us here in the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. If you don't know, you can get all of our episodes ad-free on Patreon, patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. All of Mary's true crime episodes ad-free, video episodes ad-free from the ITBR interviews. Also, follow us on Instagram, please, Ivory Tower Boiler Room. I like to put a lot of exciting arts and culture clips from the podcast, TV shows, films that we've discussed. TikTok is Dr. Andrew Rimby. Long story, the Ivory Tower Boiler Room one got taken off by TikTok because it was too salacious and scandalous, in my opinion. But I might be just having an Oscar Wilde complex there, thinking, that I was causing such a sensation on TikTok. So please rate us on Apple. It really, really helps. Review us. If you're on Spotify, you can rate us there too. YouTube, please follow our YouTube channel. Please like the video, share it with your friends, your community. The only way that I can keep giving you all free, exciting podcast episodes is because of the reach of the podcast. So rating us, reviewing us, it really, really does help. Also, shout out to Sean, our intern, who, if you see the cover art, you see the edits of the podcast, that's all Sean. So amazing work by Sean. So I hope you all enjoy this episode. Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Andrew Rimby. Welcome back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Rooms Teaching the Humanities series. I am so excited and ecstatic because I'm joined with a now colleague, but I've known Dr. Mary Balkun, who works at Seton Hall University for at least 10 years,
Right.
maybe around 10 years when I joined the New Jersey College English Association, and I was a graduate representative. And right away, she took me under her American literary wing. We bonded over Whitman. We bonded over all of the poets and writers. And Mary's just an incredibly accomplished scholar of American literature, podcaster, faculty matters at Seton Hall. She wears many hats. She's doing a lot of teaching, symposiums, conferences, presentations. I get all her emails, and it's so exciting to see. She just had on a philosopher talking about the ethics of AI. So listen to that episode. And Mary, now you're here in the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Welcome.
Thank you. I am. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, you're right. It's been I remember those early NJCEA meetings in Jubilee Hall,
Yes.
upstairs in that little conference room, seeing you across the table. That's so funny. I just got a vivid memory of that.
Yeah. And there
So,
was like a snowstorm or something where you took me to the train. I just
right.
remember.
That's right. That's right. I remember that too. Oh, that's so funny. Well, it's
Yeah.
lovely to be here and lovely to have you as a colleague as well.
Well,
You're a fabulous addition to the department.
thank you, Mary. And Ameenah as well is joined here.
Good.
Jan is on the mend, so we're
Oh,
wishing Jan a speedy
Thanks a lot.
recovery.
I'd love to talk to
Yes.
Steve.
Yes. So, Ameenah is gonna, help carry the co-host weight here, which I know she probably will have a lot of questions. But right away, is there something on your mind, Mary, before I go into like our different conversations about any like current issue that you've just been wrestling with when it comes to teaching right now on campus?
Right. Well, I mean, as with so many people, AI is really the primary struggle right now. I was just at a seminar on Saturday, in fact, on campus. It was running for 2 days, but I was only able to do the Saturday one, and it was about AI and ethics, and it was actually coordinated by our Center for Catholic Studies and another organization off campus, the Center for Catholic Leaders. Anyway, so, and it was really interesting, but sort of anywhere you turn now, it's everywhere. It's everywhere, especially, it was so funny. So one of the people in the session who was clearly not from the humanities said, I'm sure he was asking a question. He said, I'm sure there are people that this was very funny, who are pushing back against AI, but like, who are they? I was like, excuse me. There are
You're like,
many of
you're in
us
a
out
room
here.
full of them right now.
Exactly. And so I didn't ask, I raised my hand. I said, I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I said, by the way, go to No AI, organized by Anna Kornblum and a whole bunch of other folks, and go here and go, listen, we might be tilting at windmills, but there's definitely um, uh, in the humanities, there's definitely that moment of feeling like, I think for many of us, panic and kind of confusion. I don't want to make it say too strongly because there's certainly people in the humanities who are finding this exciting as an exciting moment. I would say most of the people I talk to are not finding it exciting. They're finding it incredibly nerve-wracking and time-consuming when they want to be doing other things. So I say right now, almost everywhere I go, AI is the topic of conversation.
Do you feel like it's demoralized or caused a sense of, like you say, panic, and
Mm,
also a type of wrestling with, well, what is my identity in a literary writing classroom setting?
right, right. Absolutely. I was thinking about this recently, and I mentioned this at the same seminar that you start to feel at a certain point, not intentionally, and it's not coming from our colleagues at all, but as if as if the humanities weren't under attack before. I do believe, in fact, that this is a moment where the humanities are being recognized for what they bring to the table, but that can come later. But I do feel almost as if the disciplines are being pitched against each other. We've got the folks in the business school, for example. Again, lovely, and many lovely colleagues in the business school, people I'm good friends with, but there, rah rah, teach them the prompts. We're all in. We need to prepare our students for their future careers out there where AI is going to be everything and all. And then you've got the people in the humanities who are saying, hold on a minute. Are we talking about de-skilling? Are we talking about the loss of critical thinking, of writing skills, of voice, of humanity? In fact, that's another current conversation is where is the human in all of this? And it's coming from all different quarters. It's coming from people who are just, who are just commentators, people blogs, and faculty as well. So I would say for me, that's one of the biggest challenges. I think so Seton Hall has just created, it's an AI advisory council. We haven't even met yet. So there are about 15 of us on it. I was really happy to be invited to be on it. I've been doing a lot of stuff with a lot of work with AI, more about getting the conversations out there. Since January of 23, I did a Center for Faculty Development session in Teams before the start of that spring semester, and there were 85 people on there. Yeah, the turnout was unbelievable. I'd never seen it like that before. And still, when I run something on AI, it tends to get a big turnout. But I think that hopefully will be a space where we can kind of look at each other and say, we are coming at this from very different directions, and we need to figure out how to send a cohesive message to our students, if only about that. In your business class, this is what's going to happen. In your philosophy class or your English class or your history class, this is what's going to happen. And I don't know that we've been in the same rooms enough. So anyway, I think that for me is the big challenge, that I think it's kind of fragmenting us, and we need to kind of pull together.
Well, and that fragmenting is
Mm,
actually so metaphorical because I also feel like we're all really in silos in this
yes.
digital media age.
Hmm.
Like what you're seeing on your algorithm is different from what I see, from what Ameenah sees, and like what our students are seeing. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, finding that, how do we try to come up with strategies when
Mm-hmm.
we're all being fed or consuming
Right.
conversations that we don't have one through line?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah,
If
no, that's really interesting. You're right. That's so funny. And somebody was just saying that at this, so we had like table conversations throughout the day. And somebody actually made that point. They said, if I, I will say to a student sometimes, like, show me what you're seeing. Show me what's coming through your feed, for example, and I will show you what's coming through my feed. And really, you're right. We are involved in such different conversations in many cases that we really don't, we're not even right. We're not seeing the same thing. We're not hearing the same messages. And so, yeah, I think that's really a challenge too.
I think that you're talking about something really important where like we aren't necessarily like we're doing too much of like consuming and not enough creating or like not enough thinking. And
Mm,
so if we are all on different paths of seeing different things because of the algorithm, which really just reflects the things that we're thinking because it's the things that
mhm,
we're searching, then perhaps it's just like this is should just be a big message that we should all just be putting them down. Put your
right.
phones down, stop looking at those things, spend less
Mhm,
like we spend a lot of time like looking at
mm,
things to get inspiration to create instead of just taking the initiative to
right,
go the thing that we're seeking and searching. And you
right,
also brought up a really great point like a couple of minutes ago where it's like there is a place for AI, but the
right,
humanities is not the place.
right,
And I think that people think that when us in the humanities talk about like we don't want AI, that we're saying we don't want AI at all.
right,
And
right,
we're very intelligent and smart enough to acknowledge that there is a
right,
place where artificial intelligence has a home,
right,
but in the humanities in the 21st century, when we're already so lacking in the critical thinking area, this is
right,
the place or the space for it. And
right,
I'm glad that we have advocates like the committee where there's 15 learned individuals who
right,
can say, I am proof that if you put the machines down, there's
right,
really beautiful thought going on here.
right, right. Yeah, you're right. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I'm hoping that that's what happens. But I also know that there are certainly people who are going to be in this committee, again, really respected colleagues who are going to say, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do to prepare our students for this new world. And thinking, well, I get it. I really do. I mean, again, I have nieces and nephews who are out there in the business world, and this is what they're saying. But I'm also concerned about all right. So one of the things that concerns me the most, especially where our students are being told about you need to know this for your future career. Okay. Um, that's very likely true, but I have a personal experience of someone I know who basically put himself out of a job by helping to train something, and suddenly he was let go. And it's like, okay, so now you're basically kind of annihilating your own field, your own occupation. Well, we also know that one of the places that's being hit hard, which is kind of ironic if you think about it, is computer science, right?
Yeah.
Coding and all that. I'm like, yeah, we've been at not at odds, but that's certainly been a kind of here are the STEM fields on this side, the humanities on this side. Comp sci has always been on the STEM side, right? Just in terms of how we distinguish. And suddenly it's like, huh, guess what? You're in the same boat we are in some ways. That right, creation and building is something that you do, and it can be taken away from you. The other thing I worry about is that okay, we've been talking about the elimination of jobs. I'm frankly more concerned with the pylon that we keep hearing that okay, this is going to make your job easier. This is going to free up more of your time. I think that's frankly a crock because what's going to happen, we've seen it happen over and over again. We saw it happen with computing in general. We saw it with email. We've seen it with every tech innovation that's come along. The reason we are all out of our minds busy these days is because every time something comes along that is supposed to make our lives easier, it
Right.
opens the door for someone to say, okay, so now that you've got this thing that makes your life easier, now you can do this too. And that's what's happening. It's just that pylon of work. And it happens everywhere. It's not just out in the business world, it happens in academia as well, right? So, well, of course, if you have this tool that can help you give feedback on student papers, well, then that means, you know what? I can raise your class size from 25 to 35 because you don't have to do that work. The work is easier for you now. And we're hearing that.
Yeah. Or
Right?
give
So,
you a higher course load, which I don't think
absolutely.
is out of the question.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
no, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, no, you're right. And so I don't think that's something, and I heard that concern very early on, like late 22, 23. Again, I know that AI has been around for a long time. It just kind of hit the general public consciousness and at that moment. But it's, yeah, and I haven't heard it since. I mean, I keep bringing it up because I keep thinking, I see it in my own life. It's the more, the more something is supposed to make your life easier. I was talking to a colleague who's actually from Italy, and she's here at the university as an international scholar. And I said, we're not looking to a shift to the culture of a place like Italy or France or others, many other countries that have that break in the middle of the day. Spain, right? You're going to have a moment where life becomes less hectic. I'm sorry, that is not the United States. I told her flat out, that is not the United States. The rule here is do more, do it faster, do it better. That's what makes you a success, not having a kind of more reasonable, calm approach to life. I mean, I know there are certainly people pushing back on this, the slow movement and so on. But yeah, for me, I don't think our students are aware of what's also coming at them from that quarter, that you're going to be asked to do more and more and more because this is going to make your life easier, your job easier.
Don't think
Every
that's
time.
something also that can live in the humanities when, like, if we're talking about literature, poetry, how
Mhm.
can you be a good writer? How can you be a philosophical poet if you
Right.
are constantly being worked like that? How can you
Right.
tap into your literary studies or be close reading if,
Right.
you don't have any time because everything's being piled on you
Mhm.
and thrown at you? And I'm
Mhm.
thinking about like Walden Pond. He wasn't thinking about
Right.
artificial
Right.
intelligence or
Mhm.
anything like that. And we really do make ourselves obsolete when we give these things time and attention. And worst of all, we give it our knowledge when we feed
Yes.
it, and our time away from ourselves. We're selling it, we're giving it away. And
Right.
that's not sustainable in the humanities either, because it's
Mhm.
so based on the individual and in the mind, and in taking time away.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
like it's doing the opposite.
Welcome to Severed, a podcast week dropping new episodes every Monday. Severed True Crime and Severed Paranormal episodes deep dive into murder, mysteries, and the otherworldly in a concise format. A 7-minute story to frame the case with thoughtful analysis and our usual banter.
We sometimes find the lighter side of darker cases. We offer 3 spin-off shows, Severed Strange Stories, Severed Haunted You, and Severed Serial Killers, that highlight the unusual to lighthearted topics from the digital dumpsters of true crime, haunted universities, and the minds of madness like Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer.
We are your co-hosts. I'm Harry Chambers.
And I'm Drew Hudson. Listen on all major podcast platforms, including Rogue Media Network and Radio Garden State. Follow us on Instagram at severed_podcast.
Are you a fan of classic Hollywood movies?
Are you a fan of queer cinema?
Then do we have the podcast for you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Garcia.
And I'm Luke Delmar.
And we are your hosts of That Old Gay Classic Cinema, where we take a look at some of the greatest films of all time and analyze them through a queer theoretical lens.
Let's be honest. LGBTQIA+ people have been a part of Hollywood since its inception, and this podcast celebrates those artists and entertainers of yesteryear, while also taking a closer look at the queer-coded characters and stories in classic Hollywood films long before queer representation entered the mainstream.
So follow us down the road of classic cinema as we give you a guide to some of the films that touched our hearts, brains, and even gave us courage to be ourselves.
You can listen to That Old Gay Classic Cinema wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
All right, listeners, we're ready for our close-up.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. The humanities takes time. I mean,
does.
many things take time, but right, the humanities really thrives. Any area of the humanities, religion, philosophy, English, history, the arts, they are time sucks, right? I mean, it's you sit down with something and you spend hours and hours and hours thinking about this thing. So you're right. And then hours and hours and hours writing about this thing or making this thing, this piece of art, this symphony, this poem. These are not things that happen quickly, and they're not supposed to happen quickly.
Mhm.
And so you're right. And there's the temptation of ease, right?
Yes.
So I was just thinking about this morning about just sort of my English majors. I was thinking about one of the questions that we had kind of talking points, Andrew, that you had mentioned to me was that, what was my best assignment, worst assignment kind of thing. And one of my worst assignments, I would say, the times I've failed, I would say, is when I've assigned something to my students that they're not ready for. So as somebody who teaches first year writing, and I mean, as somebody who's probably taken it or taken something like it, my second semester freshman reading Heart of Darkness. Those classes are primarily non-English majors. And so I was thinking about this idea of, well, what distinguishes an English major? They love to read, and then it hit me. I'm like, love to write? No. Most people do not love to write. There are a few people who will tell me, I love to write. I'm not sure I believe them. I hate writing. I never can remember who the quote comes from, but there's a famous quote that I live by. I hate writing, but I love having written. That is my life in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So, right, writing is painful and time consuming. And that's something else that sort of is bubbling out there among humanities, scholars and thinkers, people who just are concerned about this kind of loss, I mean, that you are describing, right? That this all intellectual work, whether it's an accounting class or it's, an upper level literature class on Melville, they are painful and hard, and they're supposed to be painful and hard. It's not supposed to be easy, and that the allure of ease, I think, is another thing that AI presents, especially for our students. And how do we get them to realize that, yes, this is painful and hard, but that's what is worthwhile ultimately. I mean, do you really want your brain to turn into a little pile of mush between your ears? I mean, come on, you got to exercise the same way you exercise every other muscle. You've got to exercise that. And I think if they knew that it's supposed to be hard, that would go a long way. I don't think we talk about that enough, how hard intellectual life really is, whatever the discipline.
Well,
Yeah.
what
And
makes us
there's-
different from animals? They're
Exactly.
not sitting
Right.
up
Such
right.
a-
Right.
Yeah, and there's such a tactility that I feel that the actual skills of essay building or
Right.
the practices of what comes from first year writing, I think I've also switched more to the beginning of the semester, spending time on why we study literature,
Right.
and putting up front and forefronting how literacy rates have dropped by 40%. There's this YouTube creator who's done a really good job with these videos, and I show it in class and have them respond in their physical writing journal, doing that kind of analog activity. But that the bookstore, yesterday I was in Barnes and Noble, and I just love that feeling. And I explained to my students, I took pictures to use as writing prompts of
Right.
I'm gonna have them look at the different bookshelves and focus on a text and try to figure out and analyze the genre of it and what makes it unique. But it's right, those moments of just browsing, the moments of yes, we can get book recommendations on Instagram, TikTok, but there's something different about just physically being presented. It's like an art museum. There's something different about being in an art museum than seeing a painting online. And
Yes.
I sometimes wonder, how have these third spaces, like how have these spaces of community,
Right.
it really feels like you have to really actively seek that out and
Right.
fight against not having your time be taken up.
Right.
Like Ameenah and you are saying, Mary, that
Mhm.
this is,
Mhm.
it definitely is coordinated. I mean, I'm not gonna like go into a conspiracy here, but
Mhm. Yeah.
I do think that our society, they want these programs to
Mhm.
take over because they make so much money. And it's like, well,
Right.
who's making money at the end of the
Right.
day? What
Right.
are we losing when it comes to liberal arts education? And
Mhm.
right, Seton Hall is such a cornerstone of liberal arts education. And
Mhm.
like, I was
Mhm.
kind of curious, Mary, have you seen, like you said, this isn't a new issue. And there's
Mhm.
always kind of been some positioning of the liberal arts,
Mhm.
even versus business writing or
Mhm.
technical writing,
Right.
or even thinking about
Mhm.
industrial experience and the liberal arts. Like
Right.
that liberal arts thinking does take time. It is
Mhm.
sitting down with pen and paper. It's
Mhm.
enjoy like getting into a book and letting your mind take off.
Mhm.
But I feel like I know myself just carving out time to read,
I know.
even for my classes, like I have to really position in my calendar, like you're going to use this hour to read.
Yes.
Where like
Absolutely.
before I would have just had that time to read. And it's like,
Mhm.
why it now almost becomes a task of like, well, this is when I do my reading.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's so funny you say this. So I was thinking about this recently. I mean, when I was growing up, when I was a teenager and beyond, I read constantly. I mean, I used to get in trouble because I was supposed to be doing something and I'd be in my bedroom reading. My mother would get in and like, okay, yes, they were very big supporters of reading. There were always books around, but you really do need to like clean your room, do your dishes, do your whatever. Um, and you're right. I really don't have as much time now. I mean, I see how friends and colleagues of mine are saying, I mean, I read this many books and I've done this, I've read all these. I'm like, I don't know where you find the time. The way I find the time, it's sort of similar, it sounds like, to what you do, Andrew. I don't even so much build it into my day. I build it into my syllabus. I build it into my planning. So I did a study, I'm sorry, an independent study last semester with a student, and we put in a few books that I wanted to read because I thought, this is an opportunity to read. And she wanted to. I said, well, here are some things that I haven't yet read, would love to. And so we agreed to do them. But summer, and this is, I don't know if you feel this way or you, Ameenah, but summer for me is an incredibly fraught time for reading because I feel like my time is so limited. I spend at least a week or two trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to read this summer? Because I don't have the time to waste on something that's not going to be fabulous. If I start reading this thing and it's not fabulous, I'm really, really going to be pissed off. So it's the pressure of what to choose. Even is I never had this worry before. I mean, I was the kid who the school library would let you take out two books, and they would let me take out four. You got to keep them for 2 weeks. I mean, so I was plowing through books, two a week in some cases. But yeah, I know maybe retirement, although I
Well,
don't see that happening anytime
but
soon
I
either.
will say, I see more and more students, not just at Seton Hall, but
Right.
Montclair, Kane. I see them reading. Like, I actually see them
Yes.
having physical books. I do think
Yes.
they're the Gen Alpha. There is a type of
Mm,
backlash I'm seeing where they're
mm,
really constantly unplugging. Like,
right.
they're
Right.
trying, like, I have a lot of students who I offer a reading journal,
Hmm.
extra credit. Like, they choose two fiction, two nonfiction
Okay.
books. I really want to get them to like challenge themselves to read more. And a lot of them actually, even before I mentioned that, said during discussion on the first day that one of their
Uh-huh.
tasks is they have a reading challenge they're going to do. Like
Okay.
they know that reading is important,
Right.
but it like they know reading's important, but how can they mindfully do it and not sacrifice another aspect
Right.
of their
Right.
work, their
Yep.
studying, and all of these demands that, well, I was going to ask you, Mary, like, how much have you seen from your time at Seton Hall about like how the student body has changed when it comes to working, even
Right.
part-time jobs. I have students working full-time jobs, and I'm
Yeah.
like, how are you taking 5 classes and working 4 days a week? I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, like I feel like that's a new phenomenon too. Like, how do you balance
Right.
your students' schedules, but also making sure they meet the standards? The spring season is here, which means there's a new issue of the Gay and Lesbian Review called Victorian Times, all about my favorite period of literature, the 19th century. And you'll see a rugged Walt Whitman on the cover and the dandy Oscar Wilde. Well, guess what? My first article is now published in the Gay and Lesbian Review called Once Upon a Time in Camden. It's the intro to my book, which looks into their queer literary relationship, but also Whitman and Wilde's homoerotic poetics, and specifically what Whitman does with male same-sex desire before the category of homosexuality even existed. Like, how did he even express this in his poetry? Well, you'll have to read my book to find out. Book coming soon. If you know of a publisher, let me know. I'm shopping around right now. But this Victorian issue is so special with the Gay and Lesbian Review. There's articles on Dr. Jekyll and Victor Frankenstein. I'm about to see The Bride, which I can't wait to see. And right, Guillermo del Toro's new Frankenstein is all the rage. There's an article on Monte Cristo's Women in Love, Tchaikovsky's Men. I love Tchaikovsky's ballet. I'm particularly an admirer of The Sleeping Beauty. One on Captain Cobb. There's film and TV shows reviewed like Heated Rivalry, Boots, Kiss of the Spider Woman, which, if you don't know, I had an episode with Jeremy Fox from the Gay and Lesbian Review, the managing editor, and Colin Carmen and Joseph Federico, and we talked all about Heated Rivalry. You have to listen to it. And Kiss of the Spider Woman, I keep recommending to everyone. It is an astounding film. Boots, I actually had the creator Greg Cope White on the podcast too. You'll have to listen to his interview. Also, if you haven't heard our episode on the kink issue of the magazine, it's really, really interesting. And the ethnography one. And yes, there will be an episode soon about the Victorian issue. So get your hands on the Gay and Lesbian Review. The digital subscription is really easy to get, glreview.org. The print subscription also, head on over to the website, click subscribe, use the promo code ITBR choice. You get a free issue of the magazine. Choose the Victorian issue, will you? So head to their Instagram, their TikTok. I love the Gay and Lesbian Review. I get so many book recommendations, TV show, film recommendations. One of the films that I can't wait to watch is in this issue. I want to say it's pronounced Pillion or Pillion. I think I made it French there, with Alexander Skarsgård. So enjoy your reading, everyone. And if you're reading the Gay and Lesbian Review, please reach out to me. I want to let them know, that you all listening to this podcast are reading their magazine. Now that the spring semester is here, I am so excited to let you all know about a publisher, an independent publisher that's celebrating 40 years of great books called Broadview Press. I love Broadview Press. I have so many of their editions of classic literature like Wuthering Heights, which is coming out soon, and it's our book club choice. And they have so many academic books for instructors and for students and the general public. So I've had so many exciting guests on, from guests talking about The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, guests talking about vampire literature, horror literature. I'm looking at you, Jeffrey Andrew Weinstock, whose book actually just came out called Horror Theory. Look it up. And I cannot wait because I have 2 exciting guests coming on soon. And I've recorded their episode, so I know that it's going to be such an interesting conversation. The first is Rachel Tukolsky, who wrote a book called Writing on Fire, a fierce yet friendly guide to writing humanities essays in college. I've used excerpts of it for my writing 2 course at Montclair. It has gone over so well. I just love what Rachel does, and we get into this in our episode about this metaphor about writing on fire, like how that's a great way to think about free flowing, brainstorming, creative ideas, and getting into that flow state, which, as Rachel explains, happens not just in writing, but in many other avenues. And then the other guest that I have on is David Starkey, who wrote a book called Academic Writing Now, a brief guide for busy students. It is designed to cover the basics of a college writing course in a concise, student-friendly format. Each chapter concentrates on a crucial element of composing an academic essay and is capable of being read in a single sitting, which, for a generation, myself included, I think all of us now, just consumed by digital media or just this attention grabbing technology, reading in a single sitting is definitely a plus. So head to Broadview Press, use the promo code Ivory Tower, and you'll get 20% off every single book in their collection. There's also a really cool digital library collection they have. So if you're a librarian, take a look at that. Message me. If you're a librarian, I'd be happy to show you what that new collection looks like. And I hope you all enjoy your reading.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true. Well, you know what? Honestly, I don't know that it's changed that much. I mean, Seton Hall has always been a place with quite a few number of Gen 1 students, for example. I mean, I was a Gen 1 student myself. And so, yeah, I think I've always had students who've worked a lot. But you're right. I do think it's more, it's not even just the work. I feel like, again, it's that pressure of you're not doing enough. And so now, not only are you trying to build this resume and trying to support yourself, but you're trying to build a resume for a job or for graduate school. And so you've got your classes. And remember, at Seton Hall has comprehensive tuition, which means that so they pay a flat rate for up to 18 credits, so 6 courses. And many of them do. Many of them will take the 6 courses because they want to get their money's worth, if you will. So they're taking 5 to 6 courses. They're working, but they're also in this club or organization or doing this volunteer work or doing something else or doing an internship, on and on and on. And it's, again, this incredible amount of work because they know that what they're up against is people also doing all of this work. Now, the work, the job that they're getting paid for, others, students in other schools, other places might not have to do because they are either getting full scholarships or their families are wealthy and they don't have to pay for college or their parents are paying. Yeah, so our students, I think, have that additional burden of, in many cases, having to support themselves. It's so funny we were saying about the books, though. You're right. I'm doing another independent study this semester with a different student. And I figured she would want to use, I had written to her, I said, everything we're reading is available virtually. And if not, I have copies I can lend you of whatever you're reading. No, she wanted the paper book. So she wrote to me because the first thing we're reading is Jane Eyre. And she wrote and she said, is this edition good? She said, because I really prefer the paper book. I don't want to read a PDF. I was like, that's amazing. Yes, of course. That's great. So she's going to be reading paper books and, we'll figure, so we do this. It's funny because we tend to do it. I know in English classes, especially, we're doing it to save the cost of books, even though our books don't cost nearly as much as books in, say, the sciences or the business or whatever, but still trying to save them some money if it's available. Class time is more challenging if it's virtual. But I would rather they have the paper book in front of them, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that paper books can also be limiting. I know there are OER texts. I haven't really gone down that road as much as I should. So I'm teaching a grad class this semester. It's all early American texts, which are all available. They're out of copyright. Everything's online that I'm using, free and all of that. So it's hard to justify, and there are no single anthologies that have everything in them that I want. So I guess I could try to build one.
I am a lover of go to the free library on Kean
Yes.
University
Yeah.
campus and print the text like if they're available online.
Mhm.
And I know we're going to read a certain section. I'll run to the library really quick before class and like print a chapter or two. It's free. You can annotate on it. You still got it
Mhm.
offline, but now you have a paper copy.
You have a paper
Okay,
copy.
good. Also, just your local library as well. Usually,
Yeah.
I haven't bought a book for class because of my local library in maybe 3 or 4 semesters.
Right.
And if you can't, actually, I have a copy right here. If you love to annotate, but you can't annotate in the library, a sticky note will go a long way.
Right.
And then you can just take them out when you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything.
Yes, the
Everything's a
library,
resource.
Mm.
it's so interesting because like what I love at Seton Hall and actually all the campuses, like they're all the college campuses now are kind of mirroring a public town library where like they have a section for popular new fiction or
Mhm.
nonfiction. Because like
Right.
I remember when I first went to Kane, because I was a library holic and I'm still a
Mhm.
library holic.
Me too.
Um, and I was like, wait, this university library doesn't have like new novels or new
Mhm.
fiction. I'm like, wait,
Right.
these are
Oh, they
all
do.
like
Yeah.
academic books. And like when I was at Kane, they didn't really have what just came out, they didn't
Mhm.
have the housemaid, or
Mhm.
anything Hamnet,
They have
anything popular.
the what do they have right now that I just read from there, but I just returned it. Oh, Original Sin, the the new book. It was right in the front
Oh,
and it
Oh,
was
wow.
fantastic. And
Okay.
I wish that more
yeah.
people would go and see Dr. Rimby that you can get the same things from your
Yes.
local library right on campus. People,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad they
Well,
don't send them out so then I can have them, but I won't do
yeah.
that.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
amount of students, it's so interesting. I asked a poll and at the campuses and like I do like how many of you have been to a bookstore in the last month, the last 6 months, the last year, and then I ask about libraries
Right.
and almost half of the class have all been to a bookstore in the last 6 months,
Right.
but
Isn't that funny?
only like three have been to a library to
Mm.
check out anything in the last 6 months. So
Right.
for some reason there's
No.
not a cultural understanding of what a library like in your town offers. And I sometimes
Right.
wonder, like, what is it about, like, what's not being communicated at a high school or a middle school level? Like, I
Mm.
really feel like middle school, I know in my experience, middle school, like you, Mary and Ameenah, I'm sure
Mm.
we were in our middle school library. Like, we were the frequent visitors, but
Right.
I do feel like there's a drop off, especially when it comes to gender. And I was kind of curious,
Oh,
Mary,
yeah.
like the studies show that young
Mhm.
men tend to like fall off in reading.
Yep.
And I
Absolutely.
asked my male students, and they said yes, they tended to stop reading because they
Yes.
start to do other activities and they don't really see
Right.
how they can combine these together.
Right.
Like, have you noticed anything when
Right.
it comes to gender and
Mhm.
teaching, like over
Yeah.
your years?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know that I've noticed it. No, I shouldn't say that. There are far fewer English majors who are male or male identifying, and it's always been the case. Partly in the beginning, it was because in the early days, I would say, most of our English majors were education majors too. And we also know that teaching tends to be a very female-centric occupation, right? A lot of more women go into teaching traditionally than men. But it's so funny. The New York Times just published an article this weekend, I think it was, why boys are behind in reading at every age. So yeah, it was January 30th. So
Oh, wow.
by Claire Kane Miller. It was really interesting. And yeah, so both boys and girls, both everybody is struggling with reading, and scores are down and so on. But it's definitely true that young boys are struggling more. The percentages of boys reading has gone down even more. Test scores have gone down. And there are no clear theories as to why. I mean, she talks about a bunch of different things. She says, in some cases, it does seem like we know if you have young children around you, girls become verbal much sooner than boys. They
Mm.
talk more, they talk earlier, they tend to take on literacy much earlier than boys. So and then that gap shrinks once they hit like first or second grade. But then you're right, Andrew. And it's interesting. She didn't really talk about the other things that take boys away from reading, but that's a good point. Sports and so on. That's interesting. We have more girls involved in sports too than certainly would have been involved when I was growing up. But yeah, I think part of it is what is she saying? Screen time. Oh, that's another thing.
Yes.
And not that girls, not that, people who identify as female don't play video games and do all that, but it is certainly, again, to stereotype, a lot more people who identify as male are gaming and so on, and spending a lot of time doing that. Everybody's spending a lot of time on their phones, but that activity, and it also, I think gaming also kind of speaks to the kinds of things that reading can. Not that it's the same thing, but adventure, a plot, characters, right? So the same thing you would have typically gotten from a novel, now you're getting from this video game.
That's
I
true.
think.
Yeah, that's such a great
That's a great
type
point.
of analogy, because like my husband's starting to he just hooked up his Xbox again, and he was showing me
Okay.
Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
And it is interesting. I don't thrive with video gaming. I never really did.
Right. Yeah.
I don't like losing myself in that kind of experience,
Right.
because, I like to lose myself in text.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
do agree. I can see the challenge, the problem solving, the
Mhm.
unpredictability.
Right.
It's very second person, like you.
Mhm.
It's all that second person narrative style.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I do think that I was saying to my male identified students and to my friend who I work out with, I was like, he's starting to read more, he's listening to more audiobooks, which I think audiobooks, we could touch upon that too.
Mhm.
But I was like, well, maybe we should start a bro book club, fitness bros who also read a book about fitness. I think when you
That's fun.
find your genre, that's
Yes.
another thing too.
Absolutely. I've seen that in everyone, in young people in general. I've seen it in my nieces and nephews who were never really big. I have a niece who was really not a big reader when she was younger, but suddenly realized she loved fantasy. And so was reading through a whole series of things, the Hunger Games and all this other stuff that, so you're right. Often it is about, I would say at least there's a good measure of the time where it is definitely about finding your genre, because and this has also been one of my gripes forever with our educational system. And listen, I understand, believe me, what teachers are up against. I taught fourth grade and seventh and eighth grade for 8 years, first fourth grade for 5 years, and then seventh and eighth grade for 3 years. I'm going to say, fortunately for me, in a small Catholic school in Jersey City, where we didn't have the same pressure to meet the standards and so on, right? And we had to be accredited, but you weren't under nearly the same pressure that you're in a public school. But I have to tell you, the stuff that some young people are basically forced to read at an age that is completely inappropriate for them. And I don't mean it's inappropriate because it's sexual or anything else. No, really, really, should a seventh grader be reading Macbeth? I don't think so. Honestly, I don't even think they should be reading Romeo and Juliet. This is what I can't tell you how many kids I've known over the years who are basically, I got dragged through those things as a middle schooler, forget high school, didn't like it, didn't get it, didn't understand it, hate Shakespeare, hate poetry, hate this, that. Well, because this is, I mentioned early on, the thing that when I did fail, when a lesson didn't go well, it was often because I wasn't really thinking about the level that my students were at and what they really were ready for. I might want to, obviously I want to push them, I want to challenge them, but sometimes I'll never forget, I had a teacher in grad school at NYU, and he was lovely. This guy, he was he seemed ancient at the time. He was probably about well, he was older than this, but he said, I never really truly understood the horror that is King Lear until I was in my 60s. He said, now I realize, when you think about what happens as you're getting older, closer to death, you're having to think about what's going to happen to my, who am I leaving my things to? Who am I, how do I handle the daughters, all that stuff. And that stayed with me. But and he never said you should read King Lear until you're in your 60s. But I think, and again, I have nothing but respect for my colleagues who teach in the lower levels, but and I know that they're under the gun. They don't have a choice. This stuff is in the curriculum. This is what they're going to read, regardless of where they are. You don't really have options. That to me has been one of the biggest killers of a love of literature and reading, because they're being given things that they just are not ready for or interested in. Yeah, it's hard to get that back when it's been killed.
You're right. You're right.
Goes back to what you were saying about people playing video games and like
Mm,
people doing things for pleasure. And a lot of the genres that you both were talking about are like things that we can insert ourselves into. Like someone is still writing Grand Theft Auto, someone is still writing
right.
The Last of Us, and we enjoy those things because
Mhm,
we play as like this first person, we're so immersed in it. And I think
mhm,
that children, like, and I mean like fourth grade, fifth grade into high
right.
school,
Mhm,
they are looking and seeking, they're looking for and seeking things that they can put themselves in. And that's the only way that they feel like they
right.
can enjoy them or understand them, because little kids are narcissistic, right? So
Right.
they
Right.
want to experience things in this first person type of way. And I don't know what seventh grader or eighth grader can
Mm,
insert themselves into King Lear. That's just not realistic. And
no,
I
Yes.
don't
No,
know.
no, no,
I
no.
mean, me as a 20-year-old, I still can't really insert
right.
myself into King Lear, but I can do maybe a better job at it than a 12 or 13-year-old.
Sure.
And maybe that also goes back to in an American curriculum, we're very worried about keeping up with other countries in terms of education. And
Mhm,
we think that more is more. So if we just really ramp up what the kids are reading, then they'll feel the pressure and they'll understand it better. But then
right.
now we're segueing again because they don't know what the hell to talk about. So they're turning to
Right.
AI to write these papers for them
Right.
because they're
Right.
confused. And
Yes.
this
Mhm,
society makes us really afraid of failure. So we're so scared, oh, if we don't
Yes.
write the right thing,
yeah.
now if I don't have
Mhm,
to write it because AI will write it for me, I'll get the grade,
right.
we can move on. That
Right.
teacher or that professor will never know if I really wrote it or if I did or if I didn't. And
Right.
I think that what we should be teaching kids instead of King Lear is that it's okay to fail. It's okay
Right.
to write that bad thing, write it crappy, use the wrong punctuation, terrible grammar. Just get your ideas out, and then someone will come shepherd you along to help you make it better. Don't
Mhm,
worry about understanding these concepts so much as write down and communicate that you don't understand them as long as you're doing it
right.
well.
Yeah.
We're just maybe not giving it to them the right way.
No, I
Right.
just had that experience actually. One of my
Mm,
students, we do a diagnostic essay, as Mary knows, but they all
mhm,
have to read The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin. And I love
mm,
Kate Chopin. I love The
mhm,
Awakening. I always will remember I read The Awakening at a spa, or not a spa, but like in the Atlantic City Bally's like hotel pool. And I'm reading The Awakening as like my mom's at her New Jersey teachers convention.
right.
That's where it
Mhm,
is.
right.
And I'm just reading The Awakening everywhere.
Oh
Very
my God.
interesting
Oh,
experience.
bye.
But um, a student, I give them a hypothetical grade with the diagnostic essay. Like I don't count it towards their final,
Right.
right? I don't,
Mhm,
but I let them know like where are some areas they can improve on. And like if
mm,
you did turn this in as a graded assignment, like where would you fall?
mm,
And I thought it was so amazing how proactive the student was. Like, I want to meet with you in your office hours. I really like want to do better with my structure.
mhm,
And I said, well, do you want me to like show you some sample essays in class? Well, like from last semester, and I can show the whole class. And like how much the students want to learn how to do a better analysis,
right.
and like not hiding that information from
Mhm,
them, like
right.
showing them samples. And even
Right.
I think that I have a lot of hope. I think that,
Mm,
right, it can be tough to try to maintain that balance of, you know, staying hopeful while you're also faced with
right.
um,
Mhm,
existential, technological,
right.
crushing
Right.
issues, right?
Yes.
And I think that's where
Mhm,
we are as a country right now, is like,
right.
we need to have more conversations like this, but even like your advisory council and
Right. Mhm,
like
right.
having think tanks, like
Right.
humanities think tanks,
Right.
which you're
Mhm,
right, humanities is all about the human experience.
mhm,
So who better than to think about ethics around these questions? Like that's
Right.
what humanities
Mhm.
scholars are, we should be game for. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
making connections. Like,
Mm.
you know, I feel that when you're talking about like your experience in the classroom at K to 12 level, Mary,
Mhm.
it's like what teachers are up against now is standardized testing and like
Right.
proficiency scores. And, you
Mhm.
know, they want to probably teach The Great Gatsby in comparison to maybe a retelling of The Great Gatsby from modern day.
Right.
And they can only do one or the other, or maybe they can't even do it because they have to now teach for the test. And
Absolutely.
I do think, though, making the connection with pop culture, like
Mhm.
King Lear, I know we keep using it. I saw King Lear recently, so like that talk
Okay.
keeps coming up.
Good
But
example.
it is like I've always been
Mhm.
taught it as like the twisted Cinderella, or like it
Right.
has this fairy tale root. Like
Mhm.
I love Goneril and Regan. I think
Mhm.
they are fascinating traitors,
Yes. Mhm.
fascinating
Mhm.
backstabbers,
Yeah.
and the manipulation that
Mhm.
happens is in our
Right.
current day. Like there's a reality show right now called The Traitors, and I'm like,
Oh,
that would
yes.
work so well. Like there's ways, you're right. Like I've never really been drawn to King Lear's monologues
Right.
anyway,
Right.
but I've always found the daughters to be the
Yes.
like sticking stone
Yes.
of
Yeah.
the play.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, how do you make that relevant?
Mhm.
And I don't know if you remember, Mary, like, do you remember when there was a call for you were really shouldn't be teaching students to identify with characters, or like, you
Mm.
know, or
Right.
like they don't have to find themselves in the text. Like that's not the
Mhm.
important point. The important point is what the theory is in a text. And
Right.
then
Right.
we had like reader response theory, which I love reader response.
Mhm.
And I
Right.
think, yeah, it is important to like be attached to something in the text.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
Can we
no, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Like,
how
what was
else
it like
can we
when,
enjoy literature if we don't anchor ourselves to something in the
Right.
text? Even
Right.
if it's not necessarily a character
Mhm.
in the whole,
Mhm.
something that they're doing, someone's
Mhm.
human in this story that you can relate to somewhere.
Right.
yeah, like what was your,
Mm.
like what differs, would you say, Mary, when you know, first went to college, you
Mhm.
know, went to I want to get it right. I think Seton Hall and then NYU.
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So, like what was the method of teaching then compared to like how you now teach in the classroom?
Oh, that's a good question. Huh. Um, hmm. Well, I think, let's see. Well, hmm, probably not much different than it is now. I mean, I think English classes have always been primarily discussion based. That's what I remember from my undergraduate experience. Graduate, a little bit more lecture, of course, because they're trying to cram in so much, I suppose, and but still a lot of discussion. Um, well, I would say one, the reading expectation was higher, right? I never forget as a senior in high school, I remember we all had to write a research paper, of course, literary research paper. My favorite professor was my teacher was what's her name, Mrs. Palladino. Anyway, and she passed around this list, and I was a huge Tolkien fan. Was reading a lot of fantasy and science fiction as a teenager, loved Tolkien, and I saw The Hobbit was on the list. I said, you know what? It's so funny thinking I don't want to know what it's about. I love this novel. I don't want to have to rip it apart because I'm afraid it's going to ruin it for me. So instead, I chose Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain,
Oh,
which is like, oh my God, I don't even know how many. It was huge. It was this big fat book. And I just remember thinking at the time, but the expectation was, and they were all substantive, tough novels that she expected us to read on our own. We weren't discussing them in class. This was a completely separate assignment from the class readings, and write a research paper about it. Years ago, I taught at Seton Hall. I was teaching American novel when I first started teaching it. I'm going to say, let's see, 20 years ago, maybe. I've been at Seton Hall now full time for 30. This is my 30th year.
congratulations.
And oh,
That's
thank you.
incredible.
I live to
That's
tell the
incredible.
tale. But I would do a novel a week. I
Mm,
didn't even think twice about doing a novel a week. 2 weeks on Moby Dick, if I taught Moby Dick, and
wow,
that would
that's
depend. A
amazing.
novel a week, and they would do it
The only
because
exception.
it would never even cross my mind that they wouldn't do it. And now it would not even, I don't even think it's possible. And by the way, I do have students, and it's not even about their ability or their level of their skill level. It really is about time at this point, because getting through the reading on top of, again, if we have students who are taking 3 English classes, I've had students taking 4 and 5 in a semester, which is madness, mainly to try to graduate. Things have happened, whatever, but even three English classes in a semester with the reading load and the writing load, just tough. And then, of course, working, doing extracurriculars, whatever else you need to do, family issues, God knows what. So I really, it's tough. So, I mean, when I started as an undergraduate, I would say I was working a full-time job my first year. And I actually went to what, I don't even know what it's called anymore. It used to be Jersey City State. Then it became New Jersey City University. And now I don't even know, because now it's affiliated with Kane. I have no idea what it's.
I think it's
There you go.
Jersey
Kane,
City.
Jersey City. So that's where I did my undergraduate work. And it was insane. But I lived locally. I mean, I lived in Jersey City. This was a Jersey City school. I was working a 40-hour a week job. I made my schedule. Oh yeah. So I had all of my classes back to back on Monday. And then I had one class that met like Monday, Wednesday, Friday at like 8 in the morning, because my job started at 10 o'clock. And so I worked from like 10 to 5. And I did that for a year. And then I got a job on campus, and things eased up a little bit, and other things happened, so I was able to manage. But that was my first year. It was crazy, taking 15 credits and doing it that way. But I wasn't doing extracurriculars at that point. For me, it was basically work, school. That was it. Go to school, go home, go to work, go home. I wasn't really involved in things on campus, and that did change once I stopped working like that, and I was now working a 20-hour a week student worker gig in the student center there. Things got easier, but yeah, I would say things are definitely harder for our students. There's a lot that they have to take on, or feel that they have to take on. I would say that impacts on what we can do, what we can assign. I mean, is it important to assign a novel a week? Absolutely not. That's overkill anyway, right? I mean, yeah, spend 2 weeks on a novel.
Well,
why not?
That's like, I've veered away. Like, I only use discussion board now for like workshopping their essay topics.
Okay.
I'll like have them post their central claim and give some feedback, or if I'm not able to come to class because I'm sick, or like we'll do a virtual assignment there, like when I'm going on a conference. But I feel like the writing journal, or just having them think about the text without that pressure of like, oh, now I have to post. Like, I just feel for myself, right? If anyone does something different, I just need to be away from the screen more.
Yes.
Like, I'm doing that for my mental health.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to hear a little more from Ameenah, though, too. What has your experience been as an undergraduate at this time? I mean, you see other English majors around you, other students in your other classes. I'm just curious about how this is impacting you and people around you.
I am in a unique position at Kane where I'm not surrounded by that many English standard majors.
Okay.
I'm surrounded by a lot of English education majors, majors who they're doing like secondary ed and their concentration is English. So in terms of how my peers are engaging with the text, they're always looking at it from more of a, how am I going to teach this text? How can I fit this into my syllabus?
Right.
I'm reading like, okay, I have to close my eyes and pretend like I'm Walt Whitman laid back in the grass, doing something like that. So more like I'm thinking of it more from like a philosophical point of view. So like sometimes we clash in terms of like class discussions and like sharing in person. But that's not like a complaint or anything. It's just I wish that there were more English standard majors. And I think the reason that there aren't that many is because everyone's like, oh, what are you going to do with this now that you have an English degree? What are you going to do with it? Everybody's okay, well, I'm going to teach because I need to make money. So there's this stereotype that, the English majors aren't making any money. So English standard, I do get a lot of strange looks, but I'm interested in research. studying the canon and hopefully one day going to be a professor or an essayist or, a poet, something along those lines. So
Nice.
I'll find my way, but right now I kind of feel like I'm in no man's land. Um,
Yeah. It's interesting as you say that. I mean, again, I mentioned earlier, we don't have nearly as many, the number's starting to go back up again, education majors. And again, they have to do a second subject area, at least in the secondary level. But I remember years ago when we had more of them, and the non-education majors the English majors who were not education majors would complain to us periodically and be like, everything is pitched at the education majors.
Yes,
And I
it's
never
not
really,
any different. It's not any different. A lot of times,
yeah,
actually, last semester, I had a professor who he made an alternate assignment for our final
okay,
critical analysis essay. And he was like, if you don't want to write about theory, then
okay,
you can tell me for your final project how you would take this text and make a lesson plan out of it. And I
okay.
was like, so I'm writing 12, 15 pages
Um,
analyzing like Marxism and
right,
things,
yeah,
and they're over here tippity typing. I
right.
teach it to
Interesting.
11th and 12th graders, and
Right.
I mean, I don't, not that if it's fair or not fair is not really my concern.
Yeah, no,
It's definitely pitched more towards
mm,
those types of majors. And I don't know, I don't really like that the standard English major is becoming a bit obsolete.
mhm,
It worries me a little bit, and it's another reason why I am
mhm.
a part of the fight against AI,
Right,
because we need people who are just thinking and writing about what they're thinking and
right,
excavating these texts. And
right,
are they relevant today? Why do we still read these things?
right.
Not just to teach them to younger people.
Hmm.
These are the tools for life. So we need to
Right,
be picking them up and
right.
making them relevant today and adding our 21st century thinking to the
Mhm.
conversation and building, building, building so these
Right,
things don't disappear. They don't
right,
exist for us to put them in syllabi.
right.
So that's
Um,
the bit of struggle I'm having with now, but I've been having a lot of luck working with Dr. Rimby, working with Dr. Balakian, working with
okay.
Dr. Ali, um, working on my research, getting to talk about these things on platforms like this,
Mm-hmm.
writing a lot, getting published, just doing things
Nice.
like that
You
to,
go to a lot of cultural events. She's
oh,
going to
right.
come to, we should announce Walt Whitman's America,
Oh,
open
Pittman's
to the public,
That's
a
right.
play
Very
by
exciting.
Sarah Vanderschaff,
Mm-hmm.
happening at
I
Seton
will be
Hall
there.
University, free, open to the public,
Right.
March. It's on my
24th,
calendar.
24th, I think.
Yes, I
It's the
think
24th.
you're
Yeah.
right.
Does make a
Yes,
great point.
Yeah.
yes.
Free
I
open. Yeah.
wish
March
that
24th at
more
6:30.
people
Yeah.
would go to
Yeah, it should be great. I'm looking forward to it. I also wanted to make one quick correction. The website I was thinking about that Anna Kornblue and others that I follow are created is actually called, and you reminded me of this, Against AI. There is another No AI like site, but I think that's an individual one that somebody is. But yeah, you can find this. But yeah, Against AI is the one I'm thinking of. There are all kinds of assignment ideas, syllabus language you can use, all kinds of stuff. Again, trying to provide resources to faculty who are trying to, and it's not even all about no AI at all, ever, but if you are going to have students use it, how, but also how do you create assignments that do that push back against it and try to mitigate its use even before students do the assignment, right? How can I create AI resistant assignments? I'm not even sure that's completely possible, frankly, but I'm hearing more and more. Some of the stuff you were saying, Ameenah, about marking up texts, right? I never heard this strategy, and somebody posted it. A colleague of mine, another early Americanist, in her Facebook page, and somebody else answered and said, "Oh yeah, I've been doing this for years." Giving students points for class by when they have to bring a copy of the text to class and show the markups.
yes,
Oh,
that
And they get a few
yes.
extra points toward their final grade. And the guy who posted, who said, "Oh, I've been doing it for years," said he would put students into small discussion groups and he would say, "And this is how I'm checking. I will come around and you need to show me your copy of the text, whether it was a printout or whether it's the book, and show me where you've marked up what we read for today." And so it just kind of goes around.
maybe
And
I'll do that with the Odyssey that I'm about to start
Is that
oh
teaching
my
Emma
gosh.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Wilson?
Oh,
Well,
I love Emily Wilson's.
we love you, Emily
translation.
Wilson, if you're
Yeah,
listening.
they have a reading quiz on her intro, which is
Oh, okay.
read by Claire
Nice.
Danes. Claire
Oh,
Danes
oh,
does everything.
oh,
Yeah,
that's wonderful. Oh,
it's
that's so
good
cool. I did
audio.
not know that. All right.
There
Ooh.
are
No, thank you,
participants
Mary.
who
I
are
feel like
giving
I'm just
points.
learning so much here.
Yeah.
This is what I
Oh,
love
me
about this,
too.
is it's like, just workshopping. Oh, and our last episode, for those listening, if you didn't hear it, Debbie LaBarbera, who also is at Seton
Oh,
Hall.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She had some like really interesting ideas too about like, because she does more business writing,
Right. Mhm.
like what's going on in that space when it
Right.
comes to like the assignments and
Mhm.
trying to even, I was telling her that like on ChatGPT, if I like use a prompt and I do like an analysis with the class,
Mhm.
like I'll
Right.
ask the students to say, okay, on your screen, say, I need you to cite the sources where you pulled this information and see what happens.
Right.
Like, can it actually give you a works cited page?
Right. Right.
And it
Yes.
does not do a good
We're
job with
excited
that.
page, but not an accurate one.
No,
Yeah,
it's not a good one at all. No, that's true. Yeah, no, and that's, I think, one of the interesting things I think for us too is to have people like Debla Rivera, Greg Iannarella, Rachel Warren, the people who teach the business writing classes in addition to the other things that they teach for us and are able to sort of show us what some of these things are. And how can we work those things into the more I'm going to say more traditional English classes that we teach. Yeah, it's an interesting time. You know
yes.
what the
Well,
Chinese proverb is about interesting times, which is,
well, yes,
when you
interesting
not
on many levels. Well,
exactly
and
when
it
you
does
not live in
remind me
interesting
of
times.
like there's so many books now being published about the Age of Enlightenment and like the
Mhm.
Renaissance, and I think it's
Right.
not a coincidence that we're at a
Hmm.
crux of we're in a technological but also just a cultural
Hmm.
uh
Hmm.
pressure cooker of a period. And
Right.
Great
Mhm.
like
word.
I'm sure, right, these questions, these philosophical issues have come up in
Right.
history
Right.
uh in different ways.
Right.
And I did want to ask you, like, as we end, Mary,
Hmm.
any other like resources or things like you just, want to recommend out there for us?
Right. I really like John Warner's work, for example. So he has a new book out, More Than Words: How to Think About Writing in the Age of AI. Really interesting. He is himself a writer, publishes a lot. He writes in the Chronicle. He has Substack. I mean, he's great. I follow him. Really interesting. His earlier book was Why They Can't Write: Killing the Five-Paragraph Essay and Other Necessities. So another conversation, I think, at some point, Andrew and Ameenah, would be about starting to have these conversations in the English department. Why does every upper level English class have to assign a 7 to 10 page research paper or longer in some cases? Honestly, most of my students are not going on for advanced degree work. We want to make sure they're better writers, better thinkers, better analysts, better synthesizers of information and all of that. It doesn't take a 7 to 10 page paper to see whether they can do that or not. So I'm starting to think about, why not a 5 page paper? In a 5 page paper, you can incorporate 1 or 2 sources, which shows me you know how to do that. You can do some close reading, shows me you can do that. It can be organized. And so I do think this is also a moment for us to be rethinking what we do and questioning it, because we've been doing it for so long. It's become the gold standard, if you will. And honestly, it doesn't really make any sense for many of our students to be doing that, right? So I do worry a little bit about, so then we do have students who want to go on. How do we, probably should have some practice writing longer papers. So maybe we do the longer paper slightly in a senior seminar class, because honestly, in our 6,000 level MA classes, the paper is 10 to 12 pages. So if we did a senior seminar paper that was more like that, even a little longer, they would be prepared for writing something longer. The thesis now, when I was writing the thesis, it was like 50 plus pages, supposed to be. Mine was outrageously longer, but ours now are like 30 to 35 pages. So we've come to terms, by the way, there is no published English or literature or language paper that's 15 pages long. If you're writing a conference paper, it's
Very
usually
true.
7 or 8 pages,
Yeah.
right? If you're writing a book chapter, it's usually 20 plus pages, 20 to like these weird lengths that don't correspond even to what goes on in the profession, frankly. Anyway, that's
Yeah, but
another
no, like
conversation.
when I told my students that, like at Stony Brook in my PhD
Yeah.
seminars,
hmm
an average reading was 500 pages a week with all my classes
Right.
combined. And they're
Yeah.
like 500. I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
well, sometimes I had to read 3 novels a week.
Right.
And
Right.
then you know this, and then the
Yeah.
senior, and then not the senior, and then the
Right.
PhD seminars,
Mhm.
each of them was a 20-page paper, and they're like,
Mhm.
okay, write about
Wow.
one of the texts and apply a theory that you're
Mhm.
gonna, you know, you're interested in for your research, and then
Right.
that was it. It was
Yeah.
like, go and do what you need to do. And
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
but again, I mean, we were being trained a certain way, so
That's
I
true.
loved
Right.
what I was doing,
Yeah. No,
but
me too. Me too. And it was what everyone was doing too. But yeah, I do think rethinking how we do certain things.
Yeah.
I follow another Substack guy, Stephen Bouchard, whose shtick basically, I shouldn't say, I don't mean it dismissively, is the debate. How can we incorporate debate strategies into our classes? Is this a way to assess student learning? Because let's face it, at the end of the day, it really is about assessment. Have you learned what I'm trying to get you to learn? Have you developed the skills I'm trying to help you acquire? And how do I see that that's happened? It's really what it's about. I can't get inside your brain and see if you know it. So how do I assess learning? That's really at the end of the day what our jobs are, right? Teach it, and then have they acquired that information, that skill? So his idea is, can we take debate strategies which involve research, thinking, critical thinking, writing, organization, defending your idea? You can only do that if you've really done the work, because at some point you're going to crash and burn if you haven't done your own research and come up with ideas and put them into a form of your own, I'm going to say writing, right, that is usable. So that's interesting to me too, the idea of debate strategies. And I'm trying to, one of the podcast sessions I'm planning now is with the woman who runs our Brownson debate team, Kathy Zizek, and to have her talk about that, you know, as somebody at Seton Hall. So how might we incorporate debate strategies, debate techniques, without actually necessarily doing debate? Well, maybe have them do debate. But in my class last semester, I'm sure we're way over on time.
no, you're fine. No. We can wrap up here. This is good. Yeah. Keep going.
Okay. I had my students last semester, again, smallish class, very small class, actually. They had to both defend their presentation. Everybody in the class had to comment on it, and they had to ask them how and why questions. How did you do this? Why did you do that? To the extent that we could, right? So, and then we all read everybody's paper in the class, the draft of their research paper, and they had to post comments. And again, they had to defend the paper. And in my the handout I gave that said, you know, here are the presentation and the paper guidelines, at the very bottom, it said, literally, it said, and be warned. Everyone in this class, by the time you go give your presentation, and especially by the time we read your paper, will know what you sound like, your level of discourse, your level of vocabulary, and all of that. And we will all know if this is not you. And so I feel like that really helped. I'm telling, not a single person from anything I was able to tell used AI to do the work in either piece, either for the presentation or for the paper. I just feel like if they have to defend it, another really quick strategy I heard from Jim Kimball in our college, it's Human Development and Culture Media. He's in the comm department. He has a meeting with every student after they've submitted, not just the ones he suspects, every student, a 10-minute meeting to say, okay, tell me about this. Ask them very pointed questions about things. So not only the ones he suspects, but so it's not just suddenly you're throwing somebody under the bus. They all have to do it. Again, how big a class? Not a big, huge class, but think of how much time you spend trying to figure out if somebody actually cheated, getting your evidence together, then meeting with them and fighting with them and blah, 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 because they don't want to admit they did it, or they didn't do it. And it's coming up as false positives. So now that's another strategy I think I'm going to incorporate my next undergrad class. I won't necessarily do it with these grad students because they have to meet with me to talk about their paper anyway. And I might just do a subsequent meeting. Just how's it going? But these little strategies are now starting to emerge where we are, and honestly, it's better to have this conversation with your students. Why not? Talk about the paper. You've read it, you know what's going well or not going well, but then have a conversation with them. So yeah, why did you decide to do this? Because Andrew, you know yourself, and Ameenah, this has probably happened with you too. I've had students explain why they've done certain things to me. I'm like, oh, okay, that does make sense. I'm maybe not reading it correctly. I'm kind of stuck in a way of reading it that isn't as maybe as broad as it should be. Oh no, that does make perfect sense. You're absolutely right. I've had that happen with sentences. Reading the sentence, I'm like, this sentence makes no sense. And then the student says, but this is, I'm like, oh, I kind of sometimes get lost in your own little brain loop.
And that's the thing that we don't get when we just get comments on Canvas.
Exactly.
Well,
Absolutely.
I love Canvas comment, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the back and forth dialogue.
Yep.
What better an
Yep.
opportunity? You get the back and forth dialogue and the confrontation and the confirmation.
Absolutely. And you do have a chance to say to the student, then this is working really well. And so they don't get a grade at that point. It is part of the whole process. You read their paper, you get it, you read it, you meet with them. And again, I know somebody else has said, well, 10 minutes each student. Oh my God, I've got so many students. I'm like, but again, think of how much time you spend on the few that you're pretty convinced have used something else, because now you have to marshal your evidence. You have to meet with them. Those are longer than 10-minute meetings, I can tell you right now. And then if they refuse to acknowledge it and admit it, that's time consuming.
It's just a hassle, and
it is. And
it's all over the place.
And I feel like, you're definitely, I'm learned from this conversation that, definitely doing more of those rhetorical debate strategies, right? Like persuasive speaking is so important.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Workshopping, I love doing. I think, having students trust, like having them buy into, you as supporting their work instead of being the policing agent.
Right. Yes, this antagonistic relationship. I always used to say, I always get along so well with my students until they get their first paper back. Not that we don't get along, but suddenly the relationship completely shifts in many cases, because, you think you're doing great. I've always gotten A's on my papers, and now you're getting like a C+ from me. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but this stinks.
But trust, right? And I know I can say this, and I'm sure, right, Mary, you as well, that if you're an undergrad student and you receive a grade that, you're not pleased about, we're not upset. We're not looking down on you.
Right. No,
we see this as, this is a chance for you to improve. This is the growth stage. This is the revision stage, not, oh no, now, you're in the corner.
I know. Well, I
was that anxious student, and I needed that reassurance.
Oh, me too. I would not take well to have gotten a C+ on one of my English papers. That would have been devastating.
People who think that if you write the bad comment, the professor's behind the screen like, stupid girl. Oh,
no. Never. No. And
so
Mary,
fun.
This is just, well, we have to have you back on. If you'll come back on in a few months, I want to see where we all are
talk
at
about
with
where
these
we
conversations.
Are. Yeah. So exciting.
Yes.
Okay.
So how can
lovely.
everyone...
And lovely to meet you, Ameenah.
Oh, lovely to meet you as well.
I'm looking forward to coming to seeing you at Seton Hall. That would be
yes. I know, manifesting this
too, right? Did you apply for a TA position as well?
Dr. Sabriglia told me to apply. I haven't applied yet because I had a summer class mishap that they wouldn't pay for. So I got carried over to another semester.
Okay.
So he told me that I better apply for the full TA-ship.
Yes.
Or else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Because it's full tuition. It's not a tremendous stipend, but it's I think $10,000 now a year. So on top of the tuition, and then you just pay fees, but that's always true when you get financial aid. But no, it's great. We have a writing center. You can tutor in there for additional funds. But yes, absolutely.
Such a great environment. And and everyone, right? Mary, Faculty Matters podcast streaming everywhere.
There you go.
Spotify,
Yes, it is
Apple.
everywhere. Yeah, it's all
link-
out there. I just posted my first one for this. This is the one on AI, and
So
a
good.
philosopher talks about AI and ethics. So they come out every 2 weeks on a Monday. So the next, not sure what the next one is.
But you
Yeah.
could listen to the past episodes, go on a binge, right?
Yes, yeah,
Do your
check it-
emails. I like to like walk and listen to your episodes.
right. Yeah,
So
thank you.
also, right, you can find more about Mary, her work on Seton Hall's website, which is in the show
Mhm.
notes.
Okay,
And
cool.
yeah, and if they
Thank
want to
you.
reach out to you, they'll find information about that. And
Absolutely. If
thank
you're
you for
interested in
joining
anything
us.
American
Yes,
lit,
yes.
early American in particular,
Yes.
but anything Seton Hall,
Yeah, and Bradstreet.
there you
Yeah,
go. And
that's my
Bradstreet.
favorite
There
early
you go.
American person.
Cool.
Well, thank you, Mary. This was such a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Andrew. Same here. So lovely and lovely to
Yes,
meet
and
you, Ameenah.
Ameenah, thanks for sitting in the co-host seat.
in the
Yeah,
seat for
Such a
Dr.
nice,
T.
seamless transition. I loved
very
it.
nice.
I'm
Lovely.
really
So,
happy to be with you guys today.
Yes,
thank
thank you. Okay,
you.
and bye
Yeah.
everyone
Stay
out
warm
there.
out there. Take
Yes,
care,
until
everybody.
next
Bye-bye.
time.